Hello, so I'm going to start this cosplay series. This is my newest cosplay and the design for Senator Anakin Skywalker. And I wanted to take you through the journey of crafting the piece, designing the piece, and taking it all the way up to the competition stage, because this is going to be a competition piece. Eventually, when hopefully conventions come back. And so yeah, this will probably take me the rest of this year to craft if I'm going to also do wardrobe stuff, elegant stuff, other sewing stuff, and work, and circus school, and all the fun things that happen with graduation. So I'm going to go through and talk about how I designed the piece, and then probably go through and what is my next step, and then once I get that step done, I will be presenting a video on that back in Philadelphia. So let's start. So first, if you're doing a competition piece, you want a binder. This is an old binder from when I was 15. You can tell because I still have a folder of a kitten and a picture of Terezi from Homestuck. Is that Terezi? No, it's Nippeta from Homestuck in it, which was my 15-year-old, 14-year-old self, 13-year-old self. So I'll be using this binder for my costume work, and this is where my documentation will go, my designs, swatches. I'll go through this, especially as you get closer to competition later. Currently, I am still in the beginning stages, because I don't know when I'm going to compete it. It might be a crown piece if it looks good enough. If it's better than Thranduil, it'll be a crown piece or a New York Comic Con piece. If not, it'll be competed in one of the summer conventions I'll be going to as a visitor, because I have some things planned that will leave me unable to do circus for like 2 or 3 months. Cool. So I will pan the camera down and get started on how I designed this thing. Okay, so I have pieces of paper here, and these are all sort of the beginning sketches, but all the colors have changed now because I found a really nice silk, but I will show you. So the design itself is this. This is sort of like the roughest sketch you can find. Usually when I do sketches, they are extremely rough and very crude. This is the original sketch with all the little like pieces and needs on it. But this one has changed to this one in color because I found a lot of fun fabrics in these colors and thought that just might be a better thing. The design itself is one that I came by about last year. I did a Ben Solo, Senator Royalty Ben Solo, so I'll insert a picture of what I did. And it was a really fun cosplay to design and work on because I finally got to make my own stuff. The actual cosplay itself is based mainly on Coruscant and Naboo Senator wear, so I have the episode 1. I used mainly the episode 1 Phantom Menace book and some images from Google being like, hey, what do senators wear? So that book had a lot of sort of the senators in it because it's obviously the most political of the movies. So I just sort of went inspired on that, and I also inspired it off of like Anakin's armor, his alignment. This would obviously be more for Imperial. This would be more for Senator and Republic. So I went with this one because Clone Wars is also, it's very inspired off of Clone Wars, hence the shoulder armor and sort of the bracers here. So yeah, this is sort of the base design, very much inspired on Kylo Ren. And then most of it is sort of imagined also. The belt is extremely elegant, very, it's got an obi, it's a sash. The obi and sash are also inspired off of the actual fact that there are obi and sashes on Jedi belts. So those are the main things. I'll talk about this one. This one has sort of the things needed on it. So I basically have like yardages with what I need. I usually write down what I think I'm gonna need, and then I go, and when I go shopping or versus when I go online shopping, I'll need it. So basically I have exactly what it's going to be. Obviously this is going to be a very wide, and it's going to train on the floor a little bit is what I've written, and that's probably going to happen. But what I actually have written also is that these sort of shorter things will be training on the floor much longer than the longer things, which is totally cool too. And then I write down what fabric types I think I need. So obviously this will be silk. I'll show you exactly what fabric I've used for this. I found a really nice fabric. I have written exactly what fabric type. So like this, I want silk. This, I want the lining I've written is literally like the cheapo lining you can get on Fabric Wholesale. I'll be talking about sourcing fabrics again next video. This will probably be a polyester dupioni or a silk dupioni if I can find a cheap one. Then I have patterns. I will write down the patterns of what I need on each piece. This is for every piece. Obviously, here I've written cape sleeves, which is my Galadriel sleeve pattern, which I have Frankenstein with a lot of others. And then I have sort of like pauldrons, the tunic itself. These are for actual tunic. These are all the patterns being used for everything. Corset belt, the saber will have a pattern. And then, yeah, princess seams down here because I've used that pattern many times and I understand it. Disclaimer again, these are all done, these will all be done in brown, blue, and gold instead of black and red because I found a better fabric. So for the tunic itself, this is also inspired off of the tunic from Ben Solo. I found the design really riveting and very Star Wars, and again, Star Wars is very line work inspired. So what I have here is I have the bias edging, and I was like, well, yeah, bias edging is kind of important because, again, it works for line work. This is the first tunic I drafted, and I didn't like this design, so I went and redrafted with a sleeve design as well. This was about half a yard. I think, you know, what do I need? I need 3 yards of, I'm not using silk anymore. I'm using a really interesting textured fabric. So 3 yards of that fabric, and then I have fabric types that I could use. And then it's like, here, we need like brocade for the sleeves. We need some very textured brocade. And the wraps would be made of silk. I was like, yeah, wraps of silk are important. And then, yeah, piping, how much piping do I need? You always need more piping than you think. I would get about 10 yards for this project of gold piping. Gold piping you can find on Etsy anywhere. Piping is very cheap. You can also make it if you have the materials, but I'm very lazy most of the time, and my piping ends up kind of wonky anyway, so I just buy it. Yeah, so basically I'd always write out the fabric types, how much of the fabric I need, what I'm going to use as decoration, is it going over or under, what sort of trims do I need. Bias tape is actually not hard, but I was assumedly going to use silk ribbon, which is the thing that I wrote here, which is kind of important to know because silk dupioni and then like gold bias tape are very different things. So it's like, well, what do I want to choose? That'll come once I know this fabric type. Yeah, then I'll have the second draft just in case I want to go back to that, or in case I want to take part of that, like if I want to take the lines here, I'll use that. So let's talk about boots and pants real quick, because pants, especially for many cosplayers, pants are very hard, and so are boots and sourcing boots. And so these boots, this is all going to, again, be replaced with brown, blue, and gold. These boots are very much inspired off of Thranduil's sort of, you know, peaks, valleys, and overlockings. I have pairs that I use, and I usually thrift pairs. If you thrift pairs from Goodwill, and then you just cut them up, modify them, I usually use a very tiny needle or a leather stitching needle and leather techniques to sew these boots, or a tiny needle, and I just running stitch whatever I need to, and it works just fine. I'll do a breakdown of Thranduil once everything is finished, and I'll show you that exact technique and what I did. But yeah, so this is all, and these are bias taping edges, which will again be stitched by hand. All the gold is the pants themselves, though, these would be inspired off of a Vogue pattern that I found that I used last year with piping running through it. The reason I came up with this is because I felt with Star Wars, texture and line work is extremely important. And so I was like, well, okay, what's a pattern that I have that has a lot of line work that I also don't have to pattern myself because I don't really know how to pattern pants very well. And I was like, oh yeah, that Vogue pattern that I used last year. I'll give that as an example when I do the pants. So this is very simple. These are all very fluid, and this will change probably very drastically as the time goes on. The next thing is headwear. Star Wars is very much inspired by headwear, and there's a lot of really interesting and intricate sort of jewelry pieces, and I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? I can't leave Anakin's head empty as a senator. So I went with sort of a, again, blue, brown, gold. The red will be amber, actually, instead, so it'll be like a really nice bronze color. So I have sort of the inspired pieces, and then the materials I'm going to be using are, I want to try wire wrapping. This is a new skill. There's a question mark, because it's a new skill that I want to learn that I don't know yet. Or Warbler. Warbler is kind of expensive, but I'll have leftovers from Thranduil's crown. I still have leftovers from a different crown, so it'd be really interesting. And then these are going to be strung beads, actually. yeah, right, red gems beads, and then chains down the back, which will be strung very heavy, probably nylon thread that I'm stringing with beads to create a really heavy draped effect. But these are going to be Warbler. This is assumedly going to be Warbler. Yeah, and then obviously the drawings are very crude, and that's totally okay. If your drawings don't look like masterpieces, they don't have to look like masterpieces. Yeah, last thing is sort of an embroidery design. This is the first one. I'm definitely not going to just do this. This is sort of a first attempt at a design that I can then take into either online digital drawing, or I can take this and I can redo it in like 6 different ways and then figure that out, transfer it, and have like a good stencil to use. But I will be doing 6-panel embroidery, and that was my decision to make it more complicated, maybe for New York Comic Con and C2E2 Crown Championships eventually, hopefully. This is just an idea, and yeah. So it's done in color as well, because that is a goal. So that's sort of the rundown of how I design my cosplay when I first do it. I think, do I want it to be a competition piece? How complicated do I want to make it? What new skills am I learning? What fabrics am I buying? How can I budget this better? Like, I'm currently waiting on a Moon Fabric sale, hopefully. If not, I have the money for it. But yeah, do I need to budget? Do I need to make this competition piece, making sure that I have a binder, that I have swatches, that I have a printer, that I start documenting my progress immediately? And yeah, any binder will do if you're making a competition piece. How complicated, how much time am I spending? This changes for every cosplay. Like Zuko, I planned in about a week, finished in a week, because Zuko is more of a simple cosplay. But this one is obviously going to take more and closer to 4 or 5 months, which is fine. Just an overview. I will be coming back to you with this cosplay, hopefully when I get the materials, and run down how I selected my materials, how I selected my fabrics, yardages, things like that, and patterns. I'll be talking about what patterns a cosplayer should have, as I'm a male cosplayer, obviously, so I have masculine patterns, but I'll show you things you can modify and do. Cool.